Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action.
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. The Richmond 48-hour horror film project Scares this Sunday. Last weekend, 37 filmmaking teams wrote, shot, and edited a horror film in just 48 hours. Now you can enjoy their work at the world premiere screenings this Sunday at the Park RVA. I'll include a link to it on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry, and keep in mind there's a very high probability of a sellout, so get your tickets early, and costumes are encouraged.
But I smoked a cigar with him, and I stood in a circle with McNeil and Fidel and our producer and smoking my first Cohiba, and it was like butter.
That was today's guest, Jeff Rathner, talking about sharing a cigar with Fidel Castro. Jeff made his career as a news videographer, spending most of that time working at the PBS NewsHour. He shot interviews with many famous people, and our discussion includes his encounters with Bill Clinton, Paul McCartney, Tom Hanks, and more.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Monster, the Ed Gein story, on Netflix. This third version of Ryan Murphy's Monster series focuses on a man who some consider the original serial killer. Charlie Hunnam turns in a compelling performance in this complex examination of Ed Gein, combining quiet evil with innocent sweetness. His delicate, eerie voice is based on actual recordings. The series not only details his numerous horrific acts, but examines how they were reflected by the culture, including references to the classics he inspired, Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. Even so, there's an even-handed attempt to delve into his psychosis, especially caused by his domineering mother, Laurie Metcalf, as an absolute terror in her stern demeanor. The results of his human skin objects and other works may be more disturbing than the occasional violent outbursts. Either way, the whole thing is very creepy, but it's Hunnam's ultimately touching portrayal that gives the series its humanity. I gave Monster, the Ed Gein story 4 out of 5 stars. Jeff Rathner, we actually have two connections. One, you shot back at CBS 6 when I was there on air. And two, your wife Jan was in a production of Anything Goes I did way back in 1971 or 72.
That's right.
Footnote.
Interestingly, one of the many stories that Jeff shot at CBS 6 was my report on a new phenomenon called the Rocky Horror Picture Show when it was playing at midnights. I'll include a link to it on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry. And the production of Anything Goes was my senior college project at the Weinstein Jewish Community Center, and I staged it a second time there 50 years later, but Jan was not in that one. I mentioned Channel 6, obviously, so how did you become a videographer?
Well, I was a film major in college at University of Maryland, actually radio, TV, film. And after I got out of school, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I got a job in a motion picture equipment rental house in D.C., the only rental house between Atlanta and New York. In those days, they had traveling salesmen, and one of their major routes was Norfolk, Richmond, and Roanoke. And I was talking to one of the old guys there. So he said, well, give me your resume. I'll drop it off when I make my rounds. And Don Dale, news director at Channel 6 at the time, called me up, said, come on down. And he offered me a job. And for $3.50 an hour, I was hired as a college graduate to start my first professional job as a cinematographer.
So after you left Richmond, you had a few other jobs and then ultimately end up at Fox New York for the notorious, we all remember, PM magazines back in the day. Were there any interesting things that happened during PM?
I can have some crazy stories. I can tell you those quotes that I told you about who remain anonymous. If I can't eat it or fuck it, I don't want to know about it. That was a quote from our female host in New York about something. And then another time, an intern asked her about her meteoric rise in the business, and her response was, it's amazing what a little head will get you.
Wow. Wow, nice. I guess her name shall go unspoken.
I will not go anywhere near that. She's still around.
Oh, okay.
Surprise guest drop in.
Before we get to PBS NewsHour, somebody dropped in to bring a little update on another aspect of your life.
Hi, is this my sister, Deborah?
Sure, I'll be your sister. Hi, Jerry.
Welcome to the show. So what is your connection with Mr. Rathner?
I met him for the first time last fall when he did a production of Fiddler on the Roof with me at the Weinstein JCC.
Oh, this is Deborah Clinton. Oh, hi.
Do you really have a sister, Deborah?
I do.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry, not your sister. I thought you were being clever.
Footnote.
Deb Clinton is a local theater professional. She's the producing artistic director of the Jewish Family Theater and a theater instructor for Henrico County Schools.
Well, this is a surprise.
Oh, good. And what was that process like working with him? Because I didn't even know he was a dancer, but obviously he dances too.
I didn't know that he could dance. I didn't really know how musical he was, but I liked his persona. And I wanted him to play the constable. And in a show about Jewish people being targeted, being the guy that targets them, not like the dream role. And I need to insert that there are a lot of 20-somethings on stage with him. There was no age thing there. He danced better than they did. He knew what he was doing far more than they did, picked up things easily, didn't complain.
I really enjoyed doing the show. It was my wife agreed, one of the better shows that I've been in, because I was doing like community theater up in Maryland before I moved to Richmond. I love Pam. I take class with her. And
Pam is the choreographer, by the way. I should mention Pam Turner is the choreographer. You've both mentioned Pam.
Right. I really like how organized you were, Deborah. You didn't waste our time.
So are you going to audition for Guys and Dolls, Jeff?
Well, gosh, after this preview I just got now, do I really have to audition? Gosh.
No, if you just want to come to callback, send me an email.
Footnote.
This interview was recorded a few weeks back, and Jeff has been cast as Harry the Horse in the JCC's production. Guys and Dolls runs December 4th through 14th. Deborah, thank you so much for dropping in. It was a nice surprise for Jeff.
Deborah, this was really sweet of you. That's very nice of you. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. And hopefully I'll see you soon.
All
Take
right.
care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's go back to the big gig that you did, which was PBS NewsHour for 36 years.
Yes.
By the way, Jean Reserve, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, was at CNN for over 20 years. She told me she still considers the PBS NewsHour the best thing on TV now.
Everybody loves it. Nobody watches it, but everybody loves it.
I know we've teased about all kinds of things from Castro to Clinton to Obama to the Dalai Lama. Tell us some of the most interesting aspects of some of these people that you met and what happened that was fun.
One of them was when they sent me to Havana to do an interview with Castro. And at the time, he hadn't done an interview for TV or anybody for 7 years. This was in 1985. The deal with him was he never slept 2 nights in a row in the same bed. He was that paranoid. They said that, we're going to do this in the Palace of the Revolution, which is a beautiful mahogany building, but we don't know when it's going to be. It could be 1 o'clock in the morning. It could be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So they give us this room. And we have to set up for a translator, right? Even though he spoke and understood English just fine. But at the time, the audio guy was in another room. So we had to run lines and test them out. And, and I had an earpiece in my right ear for English to Spanish and then the other ear for Spanish to English. And I'm looking at the floor. And as I'm looking at the floor, all of a sudden, these big combat boots come into my field of view. And I do a slow take up. And there he is with his hands on his hips and his army fatigues, and he's 6'7".
Wow.
And he's like walking around, and then he looks at me and just offers me my hand and goes, ah. And I go, buenas noches, dias. I didn't even know what time it was at that point. So that was my first look at him. And then after the interview, they threw us a party. And they sat me at a table next to Raul, his brother.
Right.
Who became president after him. But I smoked a cigar with him, and I stood in a circle with McNeil and Fidel and our producer and smoking my first Cohiba. And it was like butter.
Wow.
I just remember McNeil coming to me and saying, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm just taking it all in because I just can't believe this." So that was kind of a unique experience. Another one was 9/11.
Yeah.
I was the second camera to arrive at the Pentagon. And at that time, there was a heliport on the Washington Boulevard side of the Pentagon, and there were bodies on the ground, but they had been blown back from the explosion.
Wow.
And then the wall was on fire before it collapsed. I was there before the first responders. I mean, I got helicopters landing and then closing it off, and there were cars abandoned on the road. And I got Rumsfeld dragging bodies out. He came out, and he was pulling people to safety. Wow. And stuff. And then they started moving us back. And they kept saying that there was going to be another plane's on its way, another plane. And there was another plane on the way. It turns out the plane they were talking about was the one that landed near Pittsburgh.
Right.
And here's the herd mentality. We're all camped out and we're all practicing our pans for when the plane's going to come in from this direction and hit the thing, and it's like, can you move over? You're in my shot. And it's like, this is the mindset you have. But at one point when I was down there on the ground next to the wall, I was able to stop and take a breath, and I started to take in just what this was, how big this was, and how things were never going to be the same after that.
Yeah. Now, how about something lighter? How about one of the fun interviews that you did, maybe with Paul McCartney or Stevie Wonder, somebody
Well,
like
how
that?
about a Bill Clinton one?
Okay.
Did more interviews with him than any president. I've done them all. All right. He had canceled an interview with us the week before and had rescheduled it for the day the New York Times broke with Clinton DNA on blue dress.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they canceled the schedule, and then they postponed our interview from 10 o'clock in the morning till like 3 p.m. We get there at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and there's more camera crews than you've ever seen in your life there. And I remember Sam Donaldson, who I knew casually, come running up and be like, what is he going to say to Jim Blair? And it's like, you're asking me. I mean, think about that for a second.
Yeah, really.
So anyway, Clinton, usually when he would come in, because we used to do all the in-performance, the entertainment shows.
Right.
I was hand out on a lot of music shows and stuff. He comes in and he shakes everybody's hand. And he says he wants a picture and everything like this. This day, he sends Buddy the dog in first as a distraction.
Wow. Yeah.
So Buddy comes in, and while we're all looking at Buddy, he slips in and he's in the chair. I'm the middle camera, one camera on him, one camera on Larry, and I'm the two-shot. And Jim says, well, Mr. President, I got to ask you, are you having an affair? And he, well, no, Jim, I'm sitting right here talking to you. How could I be having an affair if I'm sitting here talking to you? In all the times, whenever they've gone a retrospective of that time when you've seen documentaries, they always go to the news conference he had the next day where he's standing behind a podium and he goes, I did not have sex with that woman, Ms. Lewinsky. They leave out what we did until they did this TV movie. I think it was the book that Monica wrote, and it was on one of these cable channels. It was like an 8-part miniseries with this British actor playing Clinton.
Footnote.
That miniseries was the FX show American Crime Story, and Clive Owen played Clinton.
And they finally showed that interview.
Oh, wow. Your actual footage.
No, they recreated
They restaged it, right, okay.
They recreated it. But at the end, he's walking out talking to her, which obviously didn't happen. And they go past the cameraman in the middle, me. And what do they make him look like? Like a New York City cop, like this fat guy eating a donut, overweight, baggy pants, bald, It's like, great, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Well, make sure people see your picture on the website so they'll know that's not you for sure. So what about in performance at the White House? You mentioned that. Were there some really cool events?
One of them was when Paul McCartney got the Gershwin Prize for music. We spent the day with him at the Library of Congress. And he toured the building, and we followed him around, and we shot all this footage. He had a news conference. He did a concert in their concert hall, which was awesome. It was like 75 people. All he did was Blackbird and Yesterday. And he did it over and over again because he had his own personal cameraman that he brought over from the pond with him, doing a documentary on him. I'm miking up Paul McCartney. I don't have any pictures of that. It's like there's nobody there to take my picture.
Oh, bummer.
One of my favorite ones was I got to spend the day with Baryshnikov,
cool.
Shadowing him in New York. So what was kind of strange was that he had us come the day of his final dress rehearsal to spend the day with him. So we do an interview with him, and then we have to do another interview with him up on the rooftop. After that, we shoot. He's an artist, a photographer. That's his hobby. So he has pictures up all over his office space there. And we spend the day rehearsing with these 2 young choreographers who are there from out of town. And then we shoot the performance that night. So afterwards, I'm loading into the loading dock. The giant doors to the elevator open, and he's there with a whole bunch of people. Some woman says to me, she says, I heard you came up from Washington. And I said, that's right. And he goes, you came from Washington for this? I said, I did. He says, it's a long way to come for a kiss.
Oh.
Everybody starts giggling. And I said, well, I haven't gotten my kiss yet. And he goes, the night is still young.
Ooh.
But I think it was just his way of acknowledging me as a person. But it was kind of neat. I'm right in there, right in his face as he's giving instructions and taking instructions.
But you never got your kiss.
I never got the kiss.
Oh,
No,
bummer.
no. And he didn't ask for my phone number either. So,
Another person on your list is Tom Hanks.
and everything they say about Tom Hanks is absolutely true. I was miking him up and I said, you and I, we share a birthday, which we do. And he goes, July 9th. And I said, a lot of famous people. And he goes, O.J. Simpson. I said, well, everybody knows O.J. has July 9th birthday. I said, did you know Jimmy Smits and Chris Cooper? And he goes, no, I didn't know that. And I said, and my firstborn son. My son was born on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
My oldest. And he just stops. He takes off and he looks at me and says, now that is something really special. It's a normal dude,
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge? Was there ever a story that you or somebody to interview that was a challenge in some way?
I had to do an interview with the family of who's been described as the worst casualty of the Persian Gulf War. He was a 22-year-old guy, big guy. I think he was Filipino, but I'm not certain. He was from Manassas Park, Virginia. He was in an open-air market in Baghdad, and some guy came up and just put a pistol right to the back of his neck and shot him. They did everything they could to save him, but he crashed on an airplane on the way to Frankfurt. And the result was he's paralyzed from the neck down, and he has a persona like an 18-month-old. And that's permanent. And we went to their home in Manassas Park. The family brought him home, and they put him up in the basement. They made the whole basement into a hospital room, and he was in a hospital bed. And doing the interview with his father upstairs is one of the toughest ones. Somebody had to hold it together, and it was me. And being behind the lens disassociates you about a millimeter.
Right.
My sound man is totally in tears. My correspondent is crying. The producer is like, had to leave the room. She's crying so hard. And that was really tough, and at one point his priest from his parish came over and he got excited like a toddler gets excited.
Wow.
That was like so brutal. Talking to families of people who perished on the airplanes in 9/11. There was a family we got to know very well. The woman was a flight attendant on the one that came back to the Pentagon. Her husband and her 2 kids. What can you say to these people when you do them? It's very, that's something they don't teach you in school. You don't know how you're going to react. But, I am grateful for that, for all of these experiences. These real life moments it's like I lived my own movie. This is what makes it something really unique, and I'm grateful for all of them because it shaped me as a person. It's certainly helping me as a grandparent now, and I think I'm a better parent to my boys now as I'm a grandparent at the same time because I have compassion for what they're going through because it ain't easy.
Yeah.
They both have toddlers, both my boys. One of them has 2 of them, 2 under the age of 4. It's really, really tough.
That conclusion is a great way to finish the interview because you've buttoned it up very nicely there. But I always have to ask one question. I always ask, when you're not at the gym working out, where I see you all the time, or getting ready to do another show, what are you watching on TV or streaming or movies right now?
I was able to get all 10 episodes of 1923, season 2.
Great show. Yeah, great show.
Fantastic show.
Footnote.
1923 was a neo-Western following the family from Yellowstone in earlier years. It starred Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. And 1888 was a prequel featuring the family's trek to Montana.
1888, I think it was, the first one.
Yeah, I didn't love that one.
I really liked that. And 1923, both seasons so far have been great. A lot better than Yellowstone.
Well, I like Yellowstone too, but it's amazing that that show did not get any love at the Emmys. And Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford, hello?
Wasn't it last year, Jerry? Didn't it come out last year? Didn't they get...
The only nominations it got was in the design category, and that was the first year. For some reason, Taylor Sheridan doesn't get much love at the Emmys.
Yeah, I'm watching that, and I'm watching The Studio.
Footnote.
This interview was recorded before the Emmys, where the studio won 13 awards, including Outstanding Comedy Series.
I tell you, that's a little painful to watch. It's so real to me.
Well, Jeff, this has been great. It's great to run into at the gym, which we do at least 2 or 3 times a week, and great to hear these stories. Thank you so much.
Well, Jerry, I'm honored that you deem me noteworthy enough that you would like to do a podcast with me. I'm truly honored. Thank you.
That was today's guest, Jeff Rathner, who made his career as a news videographer, spending most of that career working for the PBS NewsHour, where he shot interviews with many famous people from movie stars to world leaders.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Good Fortune. Aziz Ansari wrote, directed, and stars in this comedy about an inept angel, Keanu Reeves, getting involved in the lives of characters that include Seth Rogen and Keke Palmer. After the Hunt. Julia Roberts goes dark as a college professor who's in the middle of a teacher, Andrew Garfield, and the student who accuses him, Ayo Edebiri. Black Phone 2. Just in time for Halloween, Ethan Hawke returns as the killer behind the scary mask in this sequel, also directed by Scott Derrickson. Urchin. Actor Harris Dickinson wrote and directed this film about a young addict living on the streets of London, not played by him. Truth and Treason. Based on a true story about a teen in Nazi-occupied Germany who risks everything to expose the truth. Pets on a Train. This animation follows a crew of animal bandits caught up in a train heist.
TV and streaming.
The Monster of Florence on Netflix. An Italian true crime series about Florence Monster, probably the most well-known serial killer in recent Italian history. Mr. Scorsese on Apple. This documentary follows the life and career of the legendary filmmaker Martin Scorsese. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle on Hulu. An upscale suburban mom brings a new nanny into her home, only to discover she's not the person she claims to be. Allen Iverson on Prime. This 3-part docuseries chronicles the player's life and impact on basketball for future generations. Nobody Wants This on Netflix. This rom-com starring Kristen Bell and Adam Brody returns for a new season. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sifter, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.